All right, welcome in Ethan Skolnick, starting 9 here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. We are going guestless again this morning. This is going to be all about your comments and your questions. We always do take the super chat. We get to those first, but I'll try to get to as many as I can here today. Also, just a couple of programming announcements. Before Floor will be on tonight on the YouTube channel at 6:30. Post Up 5R, hosted by Royal Shepherd, be on as soon as the game ends. And we've got Pace and Space on Twitter at halftime. And also, if you subscribe to our Off the Floor feed, and I post that on our Twitter account all the time, you have a chance to win a T-shirt, any Miami Heat 5RSN T-shirt that you want. We're going to do a contest tonight during the game. I'm going to be at the game tonight with Brady and Alex. Hopefully, Brady's good luck will outweigh my bad luck, although it seemed to work okay for the first round series. And, of course, check out 5 on the Floor from last night. We did an episode with Kai Carlin, who covers the Sixers for Sixers Wire, and he, like us, picked the Heat in 5. So that'll tell you something. I want to tell you about a new sponsor of this show, although not of the network. It's our friend Lynette over at A Aggressive Insurance. This is an insurance broker agency, been servicing South Florida for over 15 years. They offer auto insurance, homeowners insurance, condo insurance, life insurance, and also retirement programs. They also do the free notary services for all their clients. But here's the most important thing. I can tell you because I have a friend who has a terrible, terrible driving record. I thought there was no chance that you could get this person insurance. Lynette got this person insurance twice, okay? Reach out to Lynette. She does a great job. She'll search for everything for you. Don't have the driving record of my friend, but do reach out to Lynette. So you can reach out to her at insurancebylynette.com. That's insurancebylynette.com. You can also see the phone number there, 954-581-8800, 954-581-8800. And here's the other thing. She's a bigger Heat fan than you are, okay? She's here on all the streams. She's always posting comments. You often find her on Before Floor. As soon as she gets home from work, she's on the streams with us. So get your insurance done with a fellow Heat fan. insurancebylynette.com. She'll do a great job for you over at A Aggressive Insurance. All right, Manny Chang is at the controls today. He is the producer. We're going to get to some of your comments in a second, just to kind of tee all this off for everybody who's missed the news from yesterday. Kyle Lowry will not play in Game 1. We've been reporting that he probably won't play in Game 2 either. They're going to be extremely cautious with this, with his hamstring. Don't want to take any chances for down the road. It doesn't mean they're not taking the Sixers seriously, but they know that they can win with Gabe Vincent as a starting point guard. They have, and they've done it against Philadelphia. They won, I believe, 2/3 of their games with Gabe starting this year. He's comfortable with Max in the backcourt, so they're going to go with Gabe for now. We'll see what happens with Lowry as the series progresses. He was at practice yesterday. I'm not going to repost the photo that I posted yesterday because I got in trouble for doing it. Every other player for the Heat is expected to be available tonight. They listed everybody as questionable, but Eric Spoelstra gave away the ghost. Everybody questionable is playing. That includes Caleb Martin, includes Jimmy Butler. It includes Tyler Hero, who's a bit under the weather right now. It's not COVID-related. It includes Max Strus, who also has a hamstring situation. They all are available tonight. So it's a full slate with the exception of Kyle Lowry. As far as the rotation goes, and I know there are going to be a lot of questions about that here, my anticipation is that Gabe Vincent will start. My anticipation is that Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo will be the guards off the bench. The 8th and 9th guys are kind of the question right now. Dwayne Dedmon was going to play a prominent role in this series if Joel Embiid was playing. Now I think that the Heat may size down. The episode we did with Kai Carlin yesterday, he said that Doc talked about playing 4 bigs, but he may end up going smaller, maybe playing Tobias Harris a little bit at the 5. If that's the case, you don't need Dwayne Dedmon. So that may be a situation where both Duncan Robinson and Caleb Martin play. I expect Caleb to play no matter what. I actually think Duncan is a little bit the one on the bubble here, even though the Sixers play a lot of drop coverage. So that would seem to benefit Duncan. I think Duncan in this series is kind of like last series. If he's got it going, they'll ride with him. If not, they'll go to somebody else. I just think that's where they're at this stage of the playoffs. As far as Embiid goes, there's conflicting reports. We have heard that he would miss the entire series. People I've talked to who work at ESPN, cover Philadelphia, you can probably figure out who some of those are. They believe Embiid's going to try to come back and play, but don't necessarily think that he's going to be successful in it, okay, or convincing the Sixers that he should. But Woj reported that, and again, with Woj, it's a little hard to tell sometimes because I'm not going to say it, but tends to do the bidding of some who want him to say certain things. I just said it. He has reported that although he's out for games 1 and 2, he may be back for game 3. So we will see how that situation plays out. All right, so with all that said, Manny, let's load some up. I've got some here as well, and we'll get to your comments here this morning. Christopher Chen, why was there concern about the fit with Butler and Oladipo together on the floor? LeBron and Wade had redundancies in their game, yet they made it work and won 2 titles. That's correct, Chris, but they didn't do it right away, right? Like that's the issue. Like if you had a full training camp with a healthy Victor Oladipo and a healthy Jimmy Butler, there would be time to sort all of that out, but they haven't had that. They rushed Vic back. Well, they didn't rush Vic back. I shouldn't say that. They actually were patient with Vic, maybe too patient, some would say. But Vic came back like onto a speeding train. I mean, the Heat were already rolling, and then they brought Vic back, and it was one of the things that kind of screwed things up for a period of time during the season until Spoelstra went back to what was working with obviously the tweak of putting Strus in the starting lineup. It's just harder to do it in the midst of a season to get the two of them. I mean, they do have redundancies. I mean, they both are better with the ball in their hands. Vic has shown to be a pretty good spot-up shooter since he's come back. But again, he likes that pull-up jumper also. And I just don't think that they feel it's connected enough. Now, they're working, and I talked to Tyler about this yesterday on the side, and he volunteered to me that he and Vic have had conversations about how to make their alliance work because they are going to play together in this series, and Spoelstra gave that away too, because when I asked him about what Tyler told me, he said that's been a big priority of ours, getting Tyler and Victor to kind of come together a little bit. And they have a friendship, but again, you have a lot of players who expect the ball in their hands. Lowry, Butler, I mean, Bam does it a little bit. Gabe does it a little bit. And obviously, Tyler and Vic are at their best with the ball in their hands. So it's going to take a full training camp. We'll see if Vic's actually here for that. But I don't think they're going to blend the two of them together offensively too much right now. All right, let's get to this one from CB0. Is Kyle Lowry playing in game 2? Greg had reported before the series, if you follow our off the floor feed, he posted this about 5 days ago, that we did not anticipate seeing Lowry in the first couple games of this series. So we're going to stick to that. If they lose game 1, could things change? Perhaps. Again, he was on the floor and dressed out yesterday. So he's not far away. But I think they would like to see how many games they could win without him. I just don't think you want to take a chance here. Obviously, you see what happened in Boston yesterday with Marcus Smart getting dinged up a couple times, Middleton being out, Booker was out earlier, Embiid's had a couple of injuries during the playoffs. You just don't want to risk it. You want to get as many guys healthy as you can, particularly if you're looking at a series against Milwaukee. They're going to need Kyle Lowry to settle things down at the end of games, even against Boston. So they're going to be patient. My guess is no. You probably see him for the first time game 3 in Philadelphia. Let's go to Ricardo. Any idea why the Heat wore statement red in the last home game instead of the white? Ira wrote a story about this. He talked to Michael McCullough about it. And I'll have to look back and see what the reason was. I'm a big fan of Michael's, but the reason didn't make a ton of sense to me. So I'll take a look at it. I think they just honestly just wanted to mix it up. But again, I'll have to look back at the piece. But Ira wrote a story in the Sun Sentinel explaining why they did it. They are wearing white tonight and Wednesday night. So they are wearing white. They're not wearing the red Monday or Wednesday. But yeah, it did look ridiculous. This from Fernando here. Bam doesn't want the ball. Stop it. That's fair. I'm wearing the no ceiling t-shirt, by the way. Although we may have hit a little bit of an offensive ceiling here during the postseason. I would say this. It's not that he doesn't want the ball. He doesn't want to be aggressive with it. But, I mean, he does initiate offense a lot of times, and they do still run offense through him. He doesn't shy away from that. The issue with Bam is when he's initiating offense, instead of looking for the dribble handoff, turn and go. And he didn't do that enough in the first round. Look, it's changed a little bit for him this round without Embiid. Okay, now some would say he should dominate. He should dominate, Paul Millsap and Paul Reed and who else they got? DeAndre Jordan, etc. Furkan Korkmaz or whatever when they go smaller, or George Yang. He should dominate all these guys. I get it. I just don't think that's going to be Heat's focus. I think the Heat's focus in this series is going to be trying to lock up the guards, play through Jimmy as much as possible, particularly with Kyle not being there. And this has got to be a Tyler Hero series. It just has to be. He was not one of their 6 or 7 best players in the first round. He's going for an extension. He's going to get his 6th Man of the Year award here tonight. Probably tomorrow at practice is my guess. The awards are going out the first couple days of this week, and one of them is going to go to Monty Williams. And the Suns also play tonight, so I wouldn't be surprised if Coach of the Year is announced today. But it's got to be a Tyler series, more so than a Bam series. The Bam series is next. If they face Milwaukee in the next round, there's no running and hiding in terms of the Bam criticism here. If he doesn't shoot that jumper when Brook Lopez drops back in the paint. You saw yesterday against Boston. Boston took all threes. They don't want to take all threes. Why did they take all threes? Because Milwaukee does not let you get in the paint. Giannis and Brook do not let you get in the paint. You have got to operate basically from the 3-point line to the elbows, okay, or in the case of Bam, to the free throw line to shoot that mid-range. He's going to have to take it. I'm more concerned about him in the Eastern Conference Finals than in this series. From Ronald, do you think Depot gets more minutes than Tyler if they start hunting him? I don't think he gets more minutes. I don't. But I think that you could see Oladipo play down the stretch, or Gabe, even when Lowry's back, play down the stretch if Tyler's getting hunted. I thought it was interesting that the Sixers kind of gave away that strategy in that game up in Philly, I guess that I was actually at about 3 to 4 weeks before the end of the regular season. I thought that was the Heat know that's coming now. So, now in that game, remember, you did not have Oladipo and you did not have Gabe. So you had no choice but to play hero. In this situation, if that's happening again with Maxey, you'll see him go to Oladipo. I believe that. Or Caleb or Gabe or somebody else. But not the way that they played it that night where Hero got hunted. From Christopher Chen, any chance Markieff Morris gets run in this series? I actually think there is a small chance. I was having this discussion with some of the people down at practice yesterday. Again, Dedmon was really here for this series, for Embiid. He plays well against the Sixers. He's not afraid of Joel. But I can't see him getting big minutes against some of the guys that they're playing. It almost seems like you're wasting or a lineup spot to try to deal with DeAndre Jordan. Why? Right? So could you go with Markieff and at least you're getting that 12 to 14-foot jumper? It's possible. I do think there's going to be a role for Markieff at some point before the end of this thing. So I wouldn't be stunned if he gets minutes. I don't think he'll be in the regular rotation tonight. We'll see. I really think it's going to be a lot of Caleb Martin. I do. I think now that he's healthier now, that he's a little bouncier, he had the issues with the ankle and the Achilles. I know they're still listing him as questionable. He's fine. I would anticipate that Caleb's going to get a lot of these minutes because he's switchy, and they want a switchy defender here. Vic needs to play this series. Duncan gets one chance. From Roger. I don't think it's just one chance. I think it's limited chances in every game. I think if he's got it going, he gets a second stint. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I think that's where they're at. Game 1, first round, he had it going. You wrote it. The rest of the series, he didn't. They didn't. I think the fact that Strus solidified, and I talked to Max yesterday. Max was nervous before his first round. He admitted that yesterday. He's not nervous now. He had a very solid first round, I think. I think you got out of Max exactly what you wanted. He had that one stretch, obviously, which people remember. His averages were pretty good. He competed defensively. He didn't look like he was overwhelmed by a first playoff series, and some guys are. So I think the fact that Max has solidified himself now, I do think Duncan is on kind of a one stint, and then you see how it goes, and then a hook after that. But remember, Philly plays drop. I think they're still going to play a lot of drop. They don't really have the pieces to play a lot of switches, with the exception of Tybal. I would anticipate that Duncan's going to get opportunities if he plays. Let's be honest, Bam is a way different player in the playoffs. Okay, well, if you go to the bubble, he had some big games in the playoffs, okay? And what kind of player are we talking about? Offensive or defensive? Because defensive, he's still elite among the elite. He had a terrific first-round series defensively. I mean, I think through the first 3 games, they were shooting 18% with him guarding them. But we're talking about offense, and I know that's what everybody wants to go to on the Max thing, and I get it. And I understand that he needs to be more aggressive and that there is a little more in his bag than he shows. But this is just not a team that's going to run a lot of sets for him. And they're not going to unless he shows he's aggressive to begin with. I think one of the issues we're going to see with Bam in the first 2 games of this series is that Kyle's not out there, and Kyle is the guy who forces him to be aggressive. He passes to him, and he gets out of the way. Jimmy doesn't feed Bam that much. You look at the pass numbers. It's not as consistent. Also, without Duncan on the floor, who's kind of, Bam. I mean, they've gotten away from that here over the past 3 weeks. That Bam, Duncan pick and roll. Excuse me, dribble handoff. I don't know how aggressive Bam's going to be. All right, we got some more here. Throw them up, Manny. We'll get to a few more here in the next few minutes. I'm reading them. Odds on Depot starting, I think they're slim. People are saying, well, he started the last time. Well, yeah, but that's also because, just the way Jimmy wasn't playing. He's not going to start with Jimmy. They're going to start Gabe, and then they will likely bring Oladipo off the bench after they bring Hero off the bench. I was surprised that Tyler told me yesterday, and then Spoelstra confirmed it publicly, that Hero and Depot have been working on their chemistry. To me, that was the most interesting thing that came out of practice yesterday, because that tells you Oladipo is going to get those minutes off the bench, and that Spoelstra has already thought of ways to use the two of them together. I think using Oladipo and Butler together for too many minutes is a bridge too far. I think he thinks he can make it work with Oladipo and Hero, because Hero gives you space that Jimmy doesn't. So, even though Jimmy was draining every jumper I watched him take yesterday. Alchemist Star. Isn't it funny the media criticized Jimmy for not playing the last game of the Heat series, yet he gets hurt and Doc should have already had him out? I already answered the Depot question. Well, let's put it this way. Doc should have had him out, okay? And we talked about this on 5 on the floor yesterday with Kai Carlin. You're up 29 with 4 minutes left. If you don't think you can win that game, just quit. Just quit. Like, I mean, I don't understand that. Like, you're up 29. I understand Toronto still had its starters in. What was going to happen? I mean, okay, I know Toronto cut into it a little bit, but it's 29 points with 4 minutes left. I mean, even for Doc, that would be an all-time collapse, right? There's no excuse for having Embiid in that game when he had a pre-existing injury. It's not just that you were risking your top 3 MVP candidate when you were hoping for a long playoff run. He already had the thumb injury that requires surgery after the season. What the hell is he doing in the game? As far as the Jimmy thing, people don't know how to talk about this team, so they just go to the one thing. Jimmy Butler's the only lightning rod on this team right now. I mean, Tyler to a certain degree, but mostly Jimmy. And so they just make shit up. That's where we're at with this team. Tyler needs to be Tyler the Bucket. Otherwise, the Vic's resurgence, he'll be back in the line. Tyler needs to be better. There's no question. I did the on-off numbers for the last series, and Tyler had the worst on-off numbers of all 11 players who played, somewhat significant minutes. He was 11th out of 11. Okay. The players who were negative in the Atlanta series were Martin, Dedmon, Robinson, and Hero. The other 7 guys were huge positives. So Tyler needs to be better. Is he going to the back of the line? No, because I understand what Oladipo can be, but Tyler proved he was the 1 3-level scorer on this team this year. And he's going to get those opportunities. But we have to put this in a bigger context. Tyler Hero is playing for a max extension with this team. So he needs to be, people are focusing on Bam. He got his max. Tyler's next. He needs to have a big series. This is a team he should have a big series against offensively. They're going to play him in a way that he can. I don't think they're going to, sick Tybal on him the entire time. I think Tybal's going to be on a lot of Jimmy. I think he'll be on Kyle some when he comes back. I think Tyler's going to get some opportunities here. Okay, what else we got here? Yeah, they'll do Depot for Jimmy during subs. I think so. It's a good question. He's typically been doing Hero for Jimmy. So I think that could continue. And then you could see Depot come in for Gabe. I could see that. But it could be the other way. It could be Hero for Gabe to play a little bit with Jimmy to start. And then you sub in Depot for Jimmy. But yes, you're thinking the right way because Spoelstra thinks in terms of layers. Okay, let's go to, we'll do 5 more here. How comfortable are you in the sense Sixers backs, confident are you in the Sixers backs bench matching us? I'm not. Their bench is not good. It's just not. And, now that you don't have Embiid, it gets thinner, right? Because you got to put somebody in the starting lineup. I think that people are talking about Harden and people are talking obviously about Maxey. And to me, Maxey is the guy that Heat should worry about the most. But to me, the X factor here is Tobias Harris. Because we've seen Tobias, he's not a max player. He doesn't deserve that contract. I think everybody agrees on that. He tends to shrink a little bit in the playoffs. He played pretty well in the last round, though, particularly defensively. Tobias, sometimes when he gets more shot opportunities, can be a bit of a problem. I think he's an X factor in this series. If he shoots 45% or better on high volume, they've got a chance to stay in a lot of these games. They need to take him seriously. But as far as the bench goes, what's hurting you off that bench? Danny Green's likely starting. Doc has said that, so he's not coming off the bench. Danny Green will make a couple shots that piss Heat fans off because he's been doing that for 15 years, but he's also missed a bunch. I don't think their depth is enough. The problem with the Philadelphia is their team is built around Embiid, and I think you're going to see it crack now without him, and I think there's going to be a push for him to try to come back, or he wants to come back. But people have to understand about the Embiid injury. It's not the concussion. 3 or 4 days he'll be out of protocols on that. It's the orbital bone. Like, literally, he could lose eyesight if he gets hit the wrong way. And I'm not saying the Heat would do this intentionally. Trust me, I'm not saying this. So don't aggregate it. But the Heat aren't going to, they're not going to be nice either. You got guys like PJ and Kyle. I don't know if I'm Embiid, I would risk it. This is from Justin. It seems like the best case scenario for the Heat to finish the Sixers out in 4 or 5 and hope Milwaukee goes 6 or 7 games to get more rest. Absolutely. No question. That's why you don't play with your food, right? Philadelphia played with its food in the last series. That's the reason Embiid is out. If they finished that series when they should have finished that series, the Sixers, they were up 3-0. If they finished that series before Game 6, you don't have the game where Embiid gets hurt. So you can't play around with this. You got 2 home games, played all season to get the home court advantage. There's no Embiid. Get up 2-0. This series should not go past 5 games. It just shouldn't. You get 1-1 in this series, and like I said, Embiid's going to be pushing harder to come back. Okay? And the injuries he has won't limit his effectiveness that much, I don't think. Again, it's more precautionary because even with a mask, he gets hit the wrong way, and you're looking at potentially serious damage there. So just get up 2-0 and don't take chances here. Will Miami get a first seed banner from the season? I saw this with Sean Spencer. I don't think they do that. The Knicks do that for winning regular season games in December. I don't think that the Heat will do that. As I say that, they still need to take the Michael Jordan jersey down from the rafters. That was Pat's worst decision. But no, I don't think they'll actually do that. You know what? If the Panthers want to do that, though, it's been, for their first time, they can go do that. Tiru, good evening here from the Philippines. We appreciate, that 5% of our viewership here on 5 Reasons YouTube is from the Philippines. I don't know if people realize that, but obviously I'm sure that the head coach has a little something to do with that. But will Bam dominate the games without Embiid? I addressed this a little bit earlier. My answer is offensively, no. I just think we're waiting for something to happen consistently that's probably not going to happen. It's just not the focus of the Heat offense. Defensively, though, he should absolutely dominate this series. Absolutely. Like, he doesn't have to worry about Embiid anymore. There's no concern about foul trouble anymore. So Bam should be absolutely elite defensively. I'd like him to be aggressive offensively. It's the series against Milwaukee that I'm pointing to for Bam. That he is going to have to take and make 12-foot jumpers when Brook Lopez sits his ass back in the paint. He has to, or they cannot win that series. And I'm going to keep hammering that point. This is the Tyler Hero series to me. Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler. That's this series. I expect Jimmy to be tremendous in Philadelphia. He plays great in the places that he used to play, usually. So this is a Tyler-Jimmy series to me. Who has a better series, Maxi or Hero? Well, I'll say this. If Maxi doesn't have a better series, the Heat are definitely winning in 5. The Sixers have to win that matchup. They have to, because the Heat just have more other options than Philly does. My guess is probably Maxi, but I think the Heat can still win the series even if that's the case. But Tyler has to be better than the last series. When I talked to Tyler yesterday in the videos here on YouTube, he said that the 3-point shot wasn't really falling for him. A lot of times the 3-point shot gets the other stuff going for him. If he makes a couple threes early in this series, his game will look better. What concerned me more was it seemed like every time Tyler went back to the bench, the Heat went on a run. He needs to be one of the reasons for the runs in this series. I'm putting more focus on this reason I talked to him yesterday. I'm putting more focus on Tyler this series than on Bam. The next series, that's a Bam series. Has to be. Jordan, I think Philly's bigs are a huge concern. Do you think Doc plays Harris at the 5 a bit? Yes, I do. And if you listen to the episode with Kai Carlin we did yesterday, I think Harris is going to play the 5. I think it's the smart thing to do. I just think at this point, you're in the playoffs. You need to put your best players out there. DeAndre Jordan is not one of your 5 best players at any point, not at this stage of his career. The only thing he can do is finish lobs. That's it. He's not. He's there because he has a pre-existing relationship with Doc, and he came over in the trade. But I don't think he can hurt you. I know that Reed has impressed some people up there. He's an energy guy. George Yang is banged up a little bit. I mean, they just don't. I would play Harris at the 5 and spread it out if I was the Sixers coach, but I'm not. So there you go. What happened lately with Robinson? I just think it's inconsistency and confidence is the same things all season. He's not hurt for anything that I know about that's significant. He had one great game. He didn't have great games the other 4 games. And I just think Eric Spoelstra's at the point now where it's you perform or you sit. And they just have too many options. They have 12 rotation players. So they don't, even with Lowry out, they've got 11 really that they could play and feel pretty good about it. And some would argue they could play Yurt too, although I wouldn't do it. But he's had moments against Philadelphia. So if you needed to for small minutes, you probably could. So, I mean, you got 13. And you could send Haslam in, to mess up the other team for 4 minutes also. All right, we'll do 3 more because I know Manny's got to go here. Watch Danny Green and Harris. They're heat killers. Can't let them get off. Like I said, Danny Green has had moments. I know there's some PTSD here from the San Antonio days. If you remember the series against the Lakers, he missed a huge shot that could have finished the game. Danny Green doesn't have a ton left. He's a great veteran. He doesn't have a ton left. Harris is more the concern in the sense that there's a higher upside there with Tobias. And I do think Tobias playing at the 5 could be a little bit of a problem. Obviously, Bam can get out of the paint, but it limits some of their switching. So we'll see what they do with Tobias Harris. All right, last one here. What do we got? And we're going to try to do these pretty much every day. I'm not going to take guests this week. What do you expect from Jimmy Butler this series? Like I said, I think he'll be great on the road for sure. I just think he likes that kind of environment. I mean, everybody I've talked to about Jimmy is, he's fine. Like the knee is probably going to need to be addressed in the offseason. That's been kind of a lingering issue. We know about the ankles and everything else that he's dealt with this season. But as I reported at the time, he missed the 1 game. If that game had been 1 day later, he would have played. He needed like another 24 hours. I watched him yesterday. There's no limitation of movement, anything like that. Jimmy's fine. And look, Jimmy's going to get up for this series. I mean, it's a couple years ago now, but they didn't want him. He remembers. I mean, there's dispute over whether he was offered the 5-year deal or not offered the 5-year deal, when he was offered it. I know that Elton Brand, who was in charge at the time, he's not now, wanted to give Jimmy the max. The owner, Josh Harris, and the coach at the time, Brett Brown, didn't. So, he might still have it out for the owner. Jimmy invents things. So to get himself going, he'll be going in this series. All right. Don't throw him up here, Manny, but I'm just going to blitz through them and then we'll close. We do want to thank our sponsors, Aggressive Insurance. And also, I should mention before we go, PrizePicks.com. We're going to have a show tonight at 5:30 to get you ready for the Heat game. Use the code 5, FIVE, at PrizePicks.com. You get your initial deposit matched up to $100. We signed up more than 80 people last month, so there's a reason everybody's joining us. This is our official fantasy sponsor. Go to PrizePicks.com. Use the code 5. So I'll just go through these, and then we'll close. Thanks to Manny. That's the code. Thanks to Manny for producing today. Remy, should I take the Heat 7.5-point spread? I would tonight. If you can bump it down to 5.5, I'd feel more comfortable. but 7.5, I think you're going to be okay. And then this one comes in from Lex. Do you really think the Bucks will win the series against Boston? I really would prefer playing Boston in the conference finals. I picked the Bucks before the series without Middleton. Nothing I saw yesterday changed my mind. Giannis is the best player in the world. Tatum and Brown are great in their own way. They're not Giannis. And Bobby Portis has stepped up for them. And honestly, Middleton not being there gives a higher volume of shots to Giannis, and I'd rather he take them most of the time. So I think Milwaukee is I said this all year. Milwaukee is the team that the Heat need to get past in the East. Those two teams are going to play in the Eastern Conference Finals. Nothing has changed my mind. So we'll see if the Heat's done enough this offseason with Lowry and taking Tucker from them and adding Oladipo to be able to get past them. But to me, it's Milwaukee and it's Miami. And in the West, it's Golden State and it's Phoenix. And I think those are going to be the 4 teams. And I've thought that for pretty much half the season. And in the case of the East, the entire season. And I'm still there. All right. Thanks to everybody for following. Again, Aggressive Insurance, prizepicks.com. Use the code 5, FIVE. Get your initial deposit matched up to $100. We'll be back tomorrow. 5 on the floor tonight. Post up here on the channel tonight. Before floor on the channel tonight at 6:30. Have a good night. Have a good day, everybody.